Hello and welcome to the Real Film Podcast. My name's Phil and I'm joined by Corey.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about slasher films from the 70s and 80s. So this is part of our ongoing monthly challenge that we've set ourselves to try and watch more films from genres we're not too familiar with. So we started last month with 80s teen high school movies. You can go and listen to that on our podcast page. Today we're doing slasher films. Now, both of us have been we've seen the big famous ones, but we're set ourselves a challenge of finding some ones that either the big ones we were missing, or the lesser known ones, or the more culty ones. So the five that we set, so there was three that we both hadn't watched before, which was Prom Night, Deep Red, and then Friday the 13th, which was the big one that we both haven't seen. And then Corey set me to watch Black Christmas, and I got Corey to watch Halloween too. Now, we did watch quite a lot outside of that, but those are sort of the five main ones we were going to talk about or watch. But how about we talk about our favourite ones first? So the reason why I set Corey Halloween 2 is that I have a soft spot for it, but I don't think it's a very good film. I just think it's really fun. However, the first Halloween is genuinely one of my favourite films of all time. I absolutely love the first Halloween. I think it's a fantastic horror. I think it's probably, in my opinion, the best slasher film ever. I just think all round, it's John Carpenter is absolute best. It's spooky, it's scary, it's atmospheric, it's moody. What about you? Is Halloween up there for you?
Yeah, I think for me, Halloween is still my favorite. It's definitely the best one I watched throughout this. But like you said at the beginning, I think, me in particular, I'm not very educated in this kind of genre. And maybe I think Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween pretty much the only ones I really know much about. But Halloween for me is still the best. I think it's made with just such craft, considering its budget and stuff like that. Like the way I understand it, I don't know much about the background, but it was meant to be sort of like a run of the mill movie that's just going to get seats in theaters and they're going to forget about it. It's never meant to be anything. But John Carpenter kind of just went all out for it, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things about Halloween is how the camera moves in it. Like, there's lots of really, really long takes in it, and it's just that the camera's got this like really, really sort of unique fluidity to it. That I think other films have either tried to replicate or tried to sort of just straight up steal, and I just don't think anything ever does it. Just nothing gets close. I think. Do you know what is quite interesting is I think the only thing I've seen that gets close was the Halloween sequel from like 2017, 2018.
Yeah,
It does that sort of like fluid long take where sort of like the camera feels like it's on a steady cam, but it's got this sort of little bit of shake to it, and it's really nice. But yeah, I think that Halloween does it really well. But obviously, the first one just does it the best, and does it. It's the most original as well.
I
I
think.
think
Sorry to interrupt you.
no.
I just think that with the first Halloween, it was before slashers became really, really commercial.
Mm,
So obviously it made a lot of money in comparison to its budget, and I just feel like it was made with passion, whereas the other
yeah,
ones feel like they're being made for money,
yeah.
and they're just really following the same formula. But I just think Halloween is just so much better, and the way that John Carpenter uh, makes Michael Myers so terrifying, and the music is just incredible as well.
The music's phenomenal, but yeah, I totally agree with what you said about Michael Myers. It's like, I've said this before. I think I might have even said this in the last podcast about how the way that Michael just sort of stands there and is scary by the way he just looks. Like
Yeah,
there's that shot, one of my favorite shots in the film. I don't know. I guess it's a little bit throwaway, but it's just it's one of the ones where I remember seeing the shot and like there was such tension in it. Is when she comes inside and the window's open. Laurie comes inside and the window's open, and she shuts the window. And as doing so, she sees Michael stood in the garden, and he's got like the washing on the line, sort
yeah,
of
yeah.
flapping over him. And then I can't remember what she does. She like double takes, and he's gone. And I was just like, oh god, this film has got me fucking hooked.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
so good. It's so good. But yeah, what's interesting about it as well is that it was made for like so little. I think it was made for something like $300,000, and it made something like 60 or 70 million,
Yeah,
which is
that's
obviously
mental.
is bonkers the amount that it made off of that. And that's what sort of kick-started one of the reasons why we're doing 70s and 80s slashers, is there was this sort of golden age of slashers. And the sort of time that that's sort of regarded, I think, is sort of between 1978 and 1984, which is sort of Halloween and then Nightmare on Elm Street in those sorts of regards, because there's a lot of stuff in between that that's kind of rubbish, but those two are very, very good in themselves, and they're probably the most iconic ones. So why don't we use that to talk about Nightmare on Elm Street actually a little bit, because that was one that I think that was made. It was, the budget was more. I think it was about 1 million, but it still made about the same, about 60 million. But that was Wes Craven, who is obviously another really big, famous horror director. Um, what did you think? I mean, we've both seen Nightmare on Elm Street many times before. What did you think of it?
I really like it, but for like a different reason. It's not scary. It's really not scary. It's pretty campy in it, but it's also kind of inventive. I enjoyed a lot of what I was seeing, and I've never been a fan of like that movie idea where it's like that's so bad it's good. I just have never been a fan of that. But with Nightmare on Elm Street, it's like it's both good, and then the bits that are dated and a bit cheesy, I still really liked. So I think for me, it's a great film. It's very different to Halloween as well, and you can
Yeah.
see why Freddy Krueger became so iconic as well. Uh,
Mm. No, I'm a huge fan of Nightmare on Elm Street as well. Actually, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's not a scary film. I don't think it's meant to be a scary film, though. I've never watched it and thought that Wes Craven is trying to scare you with this film.
yeah,
I feel like he's there's a sort of um, I don't know what it is. There's a sort of culture around horror films, especially slashers, where you're not really meant to be scared. You're meant to be enjoying watching the murder, which I always found kind of strange. But it, but I don't know. That's what I see it as. Like, a Halloween is trying to scare you, but Nightmare on Elm Street definitely isn't. And as you say, it's so creative and it's so inventive. I just love I love the setup, the sort of the idea that you have this villain that's killing people in their sleep. I think that's so fascinating. I don't know where you come up with that from. I have no idea.
yeah.
And I think some of the kills in it are so, they're massively over the top. When it's like I can't remember which character it is, but this one that gets pulled into the bed, and there's just that like fucking eruption of blood out of
Oh
the bed.
yeah,
The mum comes in the room, and I mean, it's iconic.
it's Johnny Depp, isn't
Uh,
it?
is that I was trying to think, is it Johnny
Yeah,
Depp that, because I
yeah,
can't remember how he gets killed in that film. I
yeah.
was trying to
It's
remember. I Sorry, go on.
still a great scene. I mean, that's what I mean by like inventive. I just when you watch that scene, it's just so kind of like overwhelming, but it's just
Yeah.
brilliant at the same time.
I guess another one iconic from the time as well was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which, if I'm right in saying, was 74. I know Texas Chainsaw Massacre was new to both of us. This was the first time we were watching it. I've actually seen the remake from, I think it was 2006, but I hadn't watched the original one before. I liked it quite a lot. I think I liked it a little bit more. We spoke about it a little bit. I think I liked it a little bit more than you did. But I was quite taken by this film. I think it's flawed in quite a lot of places. Like, the opening 20 minutes or so are so choppily edited. It's just all over the place. And then the ending, I think, goes on for, a bit too long. But I think I can see where it sort of, slasher films before this, I don't it's not this one in specific that I think changes slashers film in the whole, but I think it's an important one that sort of it amplifies the gore up quite a lot. Like, although it's quite low budget and you don't actually specifically see much of the gore, there's quite a lot of insinuating. Like, there's the guy in the wheelchair who they just sort of Leatherface just rubs the chainsaw into him and fucking just tears him apart, and hooking the girl on the meat hook and things like that. I think there's a lot here that you can see where um, uh, slasher films like took inspiration from. Do you know what I mean? Did you feel the same with that, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I disliked it. Um, I could definitely see like why it became iconic because you just feel like a lot of slasher films have taken a lot from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I think it's really really commendable what they achieved with a $300,000 budget, was it? Um, but I think the problem for me is one is the ending. I think, yeah, like you're right, it goes on for a little bit too long. And there's also this feeling that the film's trying to make you feel unsettled all the way through. And it kind of reminded me of a not a slasher, but another horror film from the 70s called Don't Look Now,
Mm,
which uses its editing and its score so well, and it just completely throws you off throughout the entire film. But for this, with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think it's slightly hit and miss. Like
mm.
when little moments, like when she is it the guy or the girl who falls in that room, and then there's all those like skeletons and
That's the
bird
girl,
cage.
yeah.
Yeah, the girl. For me, that went on too long. Like her reacting to that, and then again
Yeah.
when at the end when the other girl, I don't know their names, uh, when she sat at the table with them, like
Mm,
it's really effective, but then it just goes on a bit too long. Like it's trying to make you too
yeah.
unsettled. Sorry, and for me, it kind of just it made me lose the impact of those scenes. So, and it does it a little bit like a few times throughout the film. So that kind of is what put me off. But I completely understand why it's considered a classic of the genre, and what they
Yeah.
did with the budget is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I totally agree as well. I have such a weird thing about that, especially that table scene when she's tied up. I think it's so effective in so many ways, but it's too gratuitous in so many ways. It goes on for far too long, but there's so many really effective things in it. It's like the bit when they put her head over that bucket, and
Yeah,
they're talking about how the granddad is. I don't know what you thought, but I really like this bit when they put her head over the bucket and they're talking about how the granddad is like the best to ever do it, and they keep trying to put the hammer in his hand to like hit her over the head with it, but he's got no strength. He looks like a fucking corpse, doesn't he?
yeah,
And like he can barely even hold the hammer, let alone hit her over the head with it. And I thought that bit, it just made me fucking cringe into a ball. So I was like, oh god, this is so like, it makes me so uncomfortable that they're basically just like, this girl's just sat there waiting for some old guy to try and hit her over the head with a hammer.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I think I just quickly looked up, by the way. Wikipedia says that the budget was $80,000 to $140,000,
Wow,
which is
that
insane.
is
Even
insane.
if it even if it is the top end of $140,000, to make a feature film on that is crazy, and it made just
Definitely.
over 30 million as well.
Yeah, I really
So
appreciate the film that they kind of just said, "This is what we want to make, and we're going to make it
yeah,
as grotesque as we want,
yeah,
with no boundaries." And they went out and they made it, and I think that's very impressive. I think, and I think you'll hear me say this a lot about a lot of the films we're going to talk about, because anyone who can make a film on such a short budget and have it become so popular is, that's just very impressive to me.
yeah, 100%. Why don't we talk about we move on to Friday the 13th then, which is probably arguably the other big famous one from the 70s and 80s genre. But we had neither of us had seen Friday the 13th, so we made that one of ours to watch as part of this five. What did you think of Friday the 13th?
I really didn't like it. This was the first one I think I watched as well when we decided to do this, and I was like, if this is the standard, then I'm not going to enjoy this. But it did get better. But no, the film for me was just. I just thought it was terrible. I just thought the performances were awful, characters were terrible. I thought where it's meant to be those little tense moments where someone's lingering somewhere or something like that, it just was boring to me. I
Mm,
and then I know it's like famous now is that thing where it's like it's not Jason, it's Jason's mother. Spoilers. Um, to me, like that was awful. Like she comes in at the end to then, to be fair to it, that moment where she's kind of like she's concerned, and then all of a sudden she's not. That bit was okay, but I just thought the whole twist was stupid. I think if they'd introduced her at any point as a side character as anything early on, it would have worked. But to me, it just kind of she just had to come in and then she had to then really, really explain who she was. And I was like, this is just I just don't buy it at all. I mean, I just felt it was a really cheap ending to a really bad movie, to be honest. I know that's
I completely agree.
yeah,
No, I there's you'll have no arguments from here. I completely agree. I didn't like it at all. I don't understand why it's iconic.
no, neither do
Like
I.
as it It's like there's other films here which have their problems, but I don't. Do you know what's crazy as well with Friday the 13th? You always associate it with Jason Voorhees, the hockey mask wearing thing. He is in it right at the end, isn't he? He pulls the girl into the lake,
Oh yeah, yeah,
but he's like a fucking skinny teenager type thing.
yeah,
I'd so and that bit. I've seen that scene before. That's an effective scene, but I totally agree. I don't. The twist doesn't make any sense either. As well, like there's so many kills that like she's. My biggest problem, I guess, with the twist was aside from the fact that she's just randomly just like, oh, I'm Jason's mother, I'm killing people because of that. Outside of that is that she's not supernatural in any way, so how does she do half of the murders? Like
yeah,
there's one,
yeah,
the one that I this isn't even like the most unbelievable murder, it's just the one that really pissed me off the most for some reason. She kills someone, like, isn't Kevin Bacon in it? And I think it's the one where she kills Kevin Bacon,
yeah,
and he's like laying in a bed and she pushes an arrow through the bottom of the bed through his throat, and it literally makes no sense like how she did that. I don't know, it's this. Yeah, I don't really get this film personally. I thought it was cheap but not in a good way. um I felt like the structure was so similar to Halloween as well. Like, obviously it has a twist that Halloween doesn't have, but like the way that the murders happen, and then at the end, the killer has like a surprise thing where he does something, he suddenly comes back, like they shoot Michael Myers at the end of Halloween, and the doctor and Laurie think it's all safe, and then he suddenly comes back out, and then they shoot him 5 times and he falls out the window and disappears. um, you kind of have that where it's a little bit different, but like you kind of just have like you think the killer's dead, and then you have another one, but then the killer disappears in Jason Voorhees, and I don't know, I didn't get this film. It didn't stick with me at all. And this is going to be really controversial. The 2006 or 2007 remake, I think, is better. The one
yeah.
that actually has Jason in it.
I,
It's still crap, but
I feel like it's only famous because of Jason, because it spawned Jason.
Mm,
So I mean, honestly, after I watched that, I really didn't want to watch any more of the Friday the 13th
no,
franchise. So
no,
that's why I didn't. And I felt like, um, I just felt like without Jason, without that, oh my god, it's Jason. Like there's just nothing to it. I just, like you said, it's cheap, but not in a good way.
yeah. There's
Yeah,
the It's quite funny is the sequel almost has is it well, it's not a sequel, it's a remake, but it's almost like a sequel because there's a flashback right at the start where Jason's mother has basically killed all the people at this camp. So it sort of is like a sequel, but it's not quite, because Jason doesn't come out at the end of the water. He's
right.
just this is like 20 or 30 years later, and it's the first time anyone's seen him, but he's the hockey mask wearing guy and he just kills loads of people. um but it's still, that's still not good, it's just better.
Oh, okay.
um, okay, should we go from bad to what I also think we both think is bad in Prom Night, which
Yeah,
was spawned off of Halloween and the success of Laurie Strode, the character of Laurie Strode. I feel like they basically just tried to make a second one in her for, I can't even remember what the name of her character is in Prom Night.
neither
Can
do
you?
I.
The film is so
It's
forgettable. There's
yeah. I
nothing.
mean, none of the characters are interesting, and all that like high school bullshit drama is just not interesting at all. There's just no reason for it at all.
I think the only thing that I actually liked about the film was Jamie Lee Curtis in it. I think she's really good.
Yeah, she
But
is. Yeah,
the whole film is so weird because it has like such a large chunk in the middle that is the most bland high school drama you've ever seen, and then they start killing people at the end, but then the kills are so, like, there's no tension in it. Every kill has like so much time behind it. There's no suddenness to it, apart from I think the only one that was a little bit surprising, but it still had far too much build up, was the girl in the girl and the guy, they're having sex in the van, and the killer opens the back of the van, she falls backwards, and then the killer just stabs her.
yeah. That's
I
that
thought
bit.
that,
Yeah, that bit actually got me. That was the only
yeah,
one, really.
yeah, that was the only one that I thought was surprising. The rest of them take too long, are really drawn out, and just aren't don't. And the killer doesn't really make that much sense either. I feel like that's a trend, like for a lot of these not as good slashers, is that they have someone who's a killer, but it doesn't really feel like a good enough reason for it. Do
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
definitely.
I don't understand the whole thing of like I'm right in thinking it's the brother of the girl who gets killed, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Right at the
really
start.
predictable as well. It's
But
very
but yeah,
predictable.
it's very predictable, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why has he waited to now to do it? I don't really
Yeah,
know.
no, I
Um,
don't get it either.
I did tell you I did quite like the bit on the dance floor though, where you have Jamie Lee Curtis and her sort of he's not a boyfriend, but the guy she's sort of interested in, and the killer's on the dance floor with the axe as well. And I can't remember what song's playing, but you got this like really 70s, even though this is like an 81 film, you have like this really 70s disco playing, and they're fighting on the dance floor. I quite like that, but it doesn't last for very long.
My favorite scene in the entire film is the bit where they're dancing.
Yeah,
So
that is.
just the dance they have that seems to go on longer than it should, but it's really good,
Yeah,
and I just really
it actually
enjoyed
is.
it.
I never realised that Jamie Lee Curtis was a good dancer.
Yeah, she's got everything, hasn't she? She's
Yeah,
she's obviously. I think yeah, you're right. This movie kind of just wanted to be Halloween and
yeah,
was trying way too hard, and even casting Jamie Lee Curtis, which is never a bad move. I mean, she's great, but it does kind of just feel like they're trying to get some of that success that Halloween's had, and it's just
yeah.
incredibly boring and not tense, to be honest.
Why don't we use that to segue into my suggestion for you then, Halloween 2. Now, I told you this beforehand. I don't think it's a very good film. I just think it's really, really fun. And I think it's. Do I think it's worth watching? I don't know. I suggested it to you. What did you think of Halloween 2?
uh, yeah, I can see why you would have fun. There was moments where I did have fun, I will admit, because it's just so dumb sometimes.
Yeah.
But it does feel a little bit like a really deflated version of the first one, which is a shame because I did watch them back to back, which I probably shouldn't have done.
Oh,
Um, yeah, but I actually think that like the idea of Michael Myers being in a hospital when I don't really know why there's so little staff there, but
it's so weird. It's just so empty all the time.
yeah, I don't really understand that. But I think the idea of him being in a hospital, still trying to get Laurie, while he basically just goes through everyone in the hospital, that's an enjoyable thing. But no, I don't think it's a very good film at all. I
No.
like I said, it feels like a really deflated version of the first one.
Yeah, it does. I totally agree. And also, I think as well, it has. I've said this to you before as well. I feel like the only hang up I ever have on the first Halloween is that it doesn't give a like really solid reason for Michael to become obsessed with Laurie.
Yeah,
And although I think it's dumb, I do think the sort of thing that they come up with in Halloween 2, that they are brother and sister, for me, I was like, I know that's kind of dumb, but at the same time, it does give you a reason for Michael to become obsessed with Laurie, because obviously in the first one, Michael kills his sister and then gets locked up for it. I feel like it would make sense if he broke out of the psychiatric facility he's in and finds out he has another sister that he would want to kill her. Which
yeah,
I know it's not the cleverest plot ever, but at least for me it gave. But they wiped that all out with the newest one. That's the strange thing about the Halloween franchise. There's about fucking 5 million different storylines going on. I mean, Halloween 3 is the most bizarre one to me because it's the one that the first two Halloween films are fictional in it, because there was that whole thing. I was talking about earlier about how I think Friday the 13th, there's lots of similarities between that and Halloween. I don't know
yeah,
if you know about like the first Halloween film. John Carpenter actually wanted to be an anthology series
yeah.
set on Halloween. So, but Michael Myers was so successful as a character, they did the sequel with him in it. And then Halloween 3, they decided to try this anthology thing, and it didn't work out. I don't know if you know, I only found this out the other day. Apparently Friday the 13th was also meant to be an anthology series. They
Okay.
weren't going to just set all these horror films on Friday the 13th, but people wanted to see Jason Voorhees,
Is
which
is the thing of like, this might be a really dumb question, but when like obviously we all say like, oh, Friday the 13th, does that come from the movie or is that something else?
yeah,
It is from the movie, isn't it?
yeah, set on Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I know that, but
That's
what I
what.
mean is like
Oh,
when people say that like Friday the 13th is bad luck, is
oh, I
that
see.
is
No,
that
no,
because
no,
of the
no, it's
movie
not.
or is that from something else? Because I've
No,
never
no, it's
really
from
known.
something
I've never
else.
really thought about it.
But no, essentially, no, it doesn't come from the film. There's a lot of things it could have come from. Um, yeah, Norse mythology. It could come from potentially when Jesus' Last Supper and crucifixion was. There's a lot of things
Oh,
it
right,
could be.
okay.
There's a lot of reasons, but yeah, there's a lot of things in history that it could have been. But that's why Friday the 13th was set on it. So that's what I mean by like it just feels like it was Sean S. Cunningham trying to rip off John Carpenter, because John Carpenter goes, Halloween, this is spooky season, this spooky holiday. I want to set all these spooky films on Halloween. Sean S. Cunningham goes, Friday the 13th, that's also spooky. Let's make an anthology series of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That just comes through for me as well. I feel like, so I know we've moved on to Prom Night, but I just feel like with Friday the 13th and Prom Night as well, I think one of the reasons why I don't like them that much is that they just feel kind of lazily made. They're not
Yeah.
like with Nightmare on Elm Street, and the first Halloween and all the best ones we talk about from the genre. It feels like they're genuinely trying to make the best thing they can. They're trying to be as original and trying to make, like, they go into this thinking, right, I'm going to make this really, really good, like the best thing I can out of this. Whereas I don't feel like they do that with Friday the 13th and Prom Night. I
Well,
feel like they're just trying to capitalize on the success of the genre.
definitely. Like I read article after I watched Halloween 2. I was just reading an article someone had written about Halloween 2 and saying like, why doesn't it work? Other than the fact it's dumb. They made a really good point that, John Carpenter, he put a lot of effort into creating something fantastic. He was given a very simple thing to do, but then turned it into like basically a horror masterpiece. Whereas the second one, it doesn't have that feel to it. It's all about, you just feel like John Carpenter. I know he didn't direct it, but he did write the screenplay. Just even he's lost a bit of interest in it. So
Mm,
like it was a really interesting article, just saying like why it's such like a, I don't know, I guess like a hollow shell of the original.
yeah.
Which I feel like that's one reason. That's one thing that's always put me off what going any further than the first original film in like a horror franchise. Is I always think that people go all out for the first one and then they just kind of deflate it as it goes on. But
They
yeah,
just rein it in for any sequels, don't they?
yeah. I mean, if you want to move on to the one that I suggested for you,
Yes.
which was Black Christmas, which for some reason is one of the ones I've seen, even though I've only seen like 3 slashes. A film I really, really like. What did you think of it?
I really enjoyed it. I think it's got a lot more to offer than a lot of, like, we've already spoken about some of the like lesser slashers out there that are kind of just trying to capitalize on the craze of the success of other films. But this came out in like 74, and I think one of the reasons why I ended up liking it so much is because, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and some of these sort of older films, the cliches and tropes of the genre hadn't been like established yet. So
Yeah,
it was kind of just, do what you want and see what works. I think because of that, there's generally a sort of structure to these types of films, but I feel like this really really doesn't have that same sort of structure. Like, it feels like there's someone killed every 5 or 10 minutes, and you honestly don't know who is safe. It doesn't care if you're the sweet young virgin or the jock or the nerd or whatever. You're gonna die at some point probably, and that's what I really really liked about it. And I think it's got some really really interesting twists and turns in it as well. It keeps you entertained throughout. Like a really good difference between this and other films, lesser films as well, is that there's a lot of meat to the characters as well. It doesn't. No one has like. No one feels out of place. Everyone feels like there's a reason to be there. Even there's the I can't remember what his name is, but the father who comes to visit his daughter, and she's the first one who gets murdered, like right at the start. And he comes to see her, and she doesn't meet him, and he sort of stays around in town to try and find out what happened to her. It all feels organic, and it all feels like you know this is the right reason to do it all. Yeah, and I really, really liked it. It's got a really great sort of ambiguous ending as well. Yeah, this was a really good recommendation from you. I think it's one of those as well that although it's set at a holiday, sort of holiday time, obviously being at Christmas, it doesn't feel gimmicky. It kind of just feels like it gives a reason for the dad to come and try and see this girl, and it feels like the right kind of time to set it. It's not like, oh, it's set at Christmas, let's do a bunch of Christmas murders. uh,
yeah. It's not like like Santa's. Someone's dressed as Santa trying to kill them or something. It's not something as stupid as that, really.
No, no, no. And I think one thing I really liked about it as well is that like you literally almost never see the killer. The closest you get to seeing the killer until sort of towards the ending bit, I guess, is like a sort of point of view. Like you see their hand going towards someone. Like there's a really good one where I can't remember who it is. I think it's the person who runs the fraternity, when she goes up into the basement and finds that first girl's body, and out of the darkness you see like this hand, like you're seeing from the murderer's point of view, you see the hand like go towards her. It's really good, it's really effective. um
I think also there's a bit where you do see his eye, don't you, through the gap in the door.
yeah, I think so, yeah.
But at the same time, I quite liked that as well because it also it was like a big bright blue greeny eye, and it looked like one of the main character's boyfriends who is a little bit under suspicion. So it's just these little things that the movie keeps doing to keep you guessing about the killer until the very
Yeah,
end.
absolutely.
Yeah, I really liked it because I started second guessing my recommendation a little bit because movies I watched like 5 or 6 years ago, I'd probably rewatch them now and wouldn't like them. But I was really surprised when I watched Black Christmas because I probably liked it even more than when I first watched it. It
Yeah.
just feels very self-contained, and like you said, the cliches hadn't been established. Even though you can get annoyed when they, like for example, when the main character, I don't remember her name. I just don't remember any of their fucking names. Jess.
um
Jess
Jess,
is who
yeah.
I'm thinking of. When the main character Jess, when she's basically the last one left, and then she has a choice when the police ring her and say, "Get out the house," and then she kind of just grabs a fire poker and runs upstairs. You're like, don't run upstairs. That's very obviously a bad decision. But it kind of, I think at the time, especially, people wouldn't be like, oh, for God's sake, what is she doing? Because the cliche, like
Mm,
you said, the cliches hadn't been established yet. So yeah, I just thought it was a really self-contained, just and really just a lot of fun. I think. I don't
yeah.
think I'd say it's up there as like one of my favorites of the genre as like most watchable. I don't think it's quite as good as maybe like Halloween or something like that, but it's definitely entertaining. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's fine saying it's from your favorites, even if it's not as good as Halloween, because Halloween is like the best of the genre. So there's going to be very, very little that comes close. But it's nice that you've got these films that might not be quite as good, but they're still really, really good in their own right, and they're still
yeah,
really
definitely.
effective. I feel like if you can watch a film from 1974 and still feel suspenseful as well,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
after this many years, I think it shows how effective the film is. I mean, you have the same thing with like things like Psycho and The Shining and things like that. They still feel suspenseful after all this time. I'm not saying it's as good as The Shining or Psycho, but you know what I mean. Like
Yeah,
older films, if they can keep if they can keep the suspense up after all this time, I think it's just a testament to how well crafted the film is as well.
yeah. I
It
think
doesn't it doesn't feel cheaply made.
that's kind of been the problem with a lot of them that we watched was that they did feel dated.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest problems, other than the fact that most of them have a terrible ending as well. But yeah, I feel like the fact it stood the test of time, is pretty impressive, and yeah, just a great, enjoyable film.
Yeah, 100%. So why don't we move on to the last film of our sort of five that we set ourselves to watch, which was a film by Dario Argento called Deep Red. This was 1975. Obviously, Argento is more famous for things like Suspiria. I feel like this is potentially like one of his more underrated films. I hadn't seen obviously at the time, but I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I thought it was super original. It's like so kinetic. Like the pacing of it is really really good. It's got this great mystery at the center of it. Uh, I think some of the effects, some of the kills are, I don't know, they're quite dated now, but uh, they're almost always super original, which I think is like I can forgive cheaper effects if you're doing it in a way that I haven't seen before. You know.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely
Um,
get that. Yeah,
yeah. What did you think of Deep Red?
I really liked it. I didn't. I enjoyed it more as like a mystery film. Um,
Mm,
it definitely is a slasher, obviously, but I definitely enjoyed the mystery. Certainly, I think I like mystery films anyway. Just because of like all the film noir and stuff like that. enjoy a good mystery. One thing I really took from it was the score as well.
Yeah.
It's just something really different about it. I wasn't expecting it, I guess, and it almost gave the movie that sort of like popcorny entertainment vibe to it, which I wasn't expecting from an Argento film, really. Um,
Yeah, I think there's a lot more accessibility to this than other Argento films because I feel like it's not surreal in like in the way that sort of Suspiria and stuff is. They are very, very sort of out there, aren't they? They're not always easily like digestible for your average film goer. Whereas I think this is because it's a mystery film at the center, and a lot of people love mystery films. I think it's a lot more. It's a lot easier to watch than some of the other stuff. But I think that's one reason why it succeeds so well as a film is that it's although it's got although it is a slasher and there's lots of murders going on, there's something else to it as well. I think the most successful slasher films are the ones that have another film at its core, or like another
yeah,
element at its core that gives it more humanity and more to sort of connect to and enjoy with. The ones that are just like murder, 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 done, I don't think are nearly as entertaining or nearly as good. But yeah, I think Deep Red's absolutely fantastic.
yeah,
What's quite interesting about the score as well, actually, is I'm pretty sure this is the first score that Goblin did for him, which is that prog rock band.
yeah,
And I'm pretty sure that Goblin ended up doing most of Argento's scores after this, but I feel like this one they hadn't quite found their groove on what they were going to do, so it's a little bit more sort of. There's a lot of different elements to it. I feel like in other films they came together and made like recurring elements throughout, but in this there's so many different aspects to the score that I think are so interesting. Um, yeah, it's I wouldn't I'm not saying it's Goblin's best score, but I think it's definitely one of the most interesting. So that was the five that we set ourselves to watch, but we did watch quite a lot in the genre outside of that. Now, one that you suggested to me was My Bloody Valentine.
yeah.
Uh, Now, that's an interesting film.
Well,
um,
I think we obviously did a bit of research, and this one cropped up on a couple of lists. It wasn't one I'd seen before, but I don't know why. I just really enjoyed it. It's so campy and really dumb. But I don't know. I think the fact that it leans so heavily into it's like the opposite of Black Christmas, where it's set at Christmas, but it doesn't really make it like a stupid holiday horror. Whereas this one really leans into it, and it just really doesn't take itself that seriously. I feel.
yeah,
Obviously,
I feel like if you're going to do a bad slasher, this is the way to do a bad slasher.
definitely.
Just
I think it's just
know what you're making.
yeah, definitely. I think it's really enjoyable. There's not much else to say about it. I mean, it's got a terrible ending. Um,
That twist ending is so bad
it's
when you
so
find out
bad.
when you find out who the killer. I mean, we'll go into we got a couple of others here that have really bad twists as well. But I think this is definitely one of my least favorite sort of endings out of all the films we've watched. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever,
No,
and I don't know. Like, there's so many kills that just don't make sense because I swear that the person who the killer's supposed to be is just like in the scene in like couldn't have done it like logistically they couldn't have been in these two places at once, but I don't really think the film is too concerned about that. I think
no,
the
not
film
really.
just wants to have a bit of fun and be really silly. Like there's so many things like is something as ridiculous as like there's a guy who gets his face boiled in
Yeah,
some water
that's some of the
and then
kills are
he's
really brutal in it as well.
they are. Yeah, they are. But he gets stuck in the fridge, and then there's like two girls, like trying to sort some food out, and they find the guy's heart in the water, but it's been boiled for so long that they don't know what's going on. And then this other guy comes in, and he's like going in the fridge to get some beer, but he's like talking to them, and as he opens the fridge, he like turns towards the girls, and the girls are talking to him, but no one's seeing the body in the fridge, and
Yeah.
it's really funny. It's like it literally makes no sense, but it's really funny. And then they shut the fucking door, and no one's noticed.
Yeah,
um,
it's a really dumb film, but I
yeah,
think
it's
it's
funny.
like we've been saying about the ones we consider to be great. It's like it's kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. It's good because it's just dumb and it really leans into cliches and really just doesn't take itself too seriously, which I'm not always a massive fan of when films don't do that. When films do that, sorry, but it kind of works with this one, and I
Yeah,
certainly
yeah,
enjoyed it.
yeah, for sure. Now, another big one that I don't think either of us had seen at the time was Child's Play. Had you seen Child's Play before this?
No, I hadn't. No.
No, I hadn't either. And I've got to say, I was pretty disappointed with it. So Child's Play's been around for a while and there's been a lot of sequels. I think I may have even seen years and years ago, but I think I might have even seen some of the Chucky sequels, the ones that are like The Bride of Chucky and The Seed of
Yeah.
Chucky or something like that. I think I've seen one or two of those. So in my head, I've always thought it's this ridiculously over the top, straight comedy horror type thing. But where I think the first Child's Play doesn't really work that well is that it's not really either like comedy or horror. I mean, I guess it's horror, but like it has moments of comedy, but it doesn't have it all the way throughout. And then it has moments of like brutal murder and stuff. But then there's just so many sequences throughout that are just nothing, are just really bland. Um, I don't know. I wasn't super impressed with it. I thought it didn't really work on as a slasher. It didn't really work as a comedy. It had moments throughout that were kind of okay, but so many of the murders are really, really stupid. Like they're so avoidable, but like I don't know, not in the way, but it doesn't feel like they're doing them in the way, say, My Bloody Valentine, for example, where some of the murders are quite ridiculous, but it's kind of doing it tongue in cheek. I feel like Chucky wants it to be tongue in cheek, but it just doesn't make any sense. It's like the one that annoyed me the most is when he's in the car and he's like stabbing through. I think it's the policeman who's
Oh yeah,
investigating
yeah,
the murders. And he's like stabbing through the car. It's like, why is the policeman just not stopping the car? He
yeah. I didn't
drives for
understand
so
that.
long and it's like it just doesn't make any sense. It's like you are being so stupid here. um yeah, I don't know, it's just I really didn't get along with it. I really didn't like it that much.
I, I agree completely. I really didn't like it. I just thought, like you, I thought it was going to be sort of tongue-in-cheek comedy, horror, and it's really trying to take itself a bit too seriously sometimes as well. And I know it's a losing battle. I may have said this before. It's a losing battle to get caught up in the logistics of a slasher film that's already about a doll that's alive. But it was just infuriating. Just like the idea that just he's like a murderer or a thief, and he just for some reason knows voodoo, and manages to do this. And I will say, like, a positive thing about the movie, the opening bits when we don't see Chucky speak, and it's just the kid talking in his ear, and then there's
Yeah.
that quite tense bit where his auntie or mum's friend is walking around the kitchen, and you can see Chucky in the background, but he's not moving. And I think it's quite tense because you don't know where. Sometimes Chucky like disappears and stuff like that. It's kind of the same thing with like you think about like Jaws, how
Mm,
they don't show the shark, but they create tension. It's not nearly on the same level, obviously, but
yeah.
I quite enjoyed that. But then as soon as Chucky opened his mouth, that whole film just went just plummeted.
Yeah, I
Um,
feel like they use the voodoo stuff as a sort of scapegoat to like do whatever they want.
yeah,
Like it was kind of like their way of like I don't know. I feel like go, oh, voodoo. Obviously, voodoo's not real, so we're gonna possess this doll, and then all of a sudden they just went, well, because we're doing that, that gives us a free pass to do whatever we want, and it just and the voodoo stuff really irritates me as well. There's the little things throughout that are really frustrating, like the voodoo guy, for example, when Chucky goes there and the guy's like, "Oh, you successfully did it, whatever." And then Chucky finds the voodoo doll of the guy, and it's like, why does this guy have a voodoo doll of himself?
yeah,
And why that doesn't make any sense whatsoever because that's only going to end badly for you. And
yeah.
it's like, I don't know. I guess it's kind of creative the way that Chucky kills him like that, but like, I don't know. It's just like it literally makes no sense whatsoever. And as you say, like you're fighting a losing battle if you're going to talk about logic in a film that's about a doll being possessed by a serial killer. But
Yeah.
can you at least have like a little bit just to give me something to like hook onto? Like there's nothing to latch onto here. You kind of just like, oh, okay, well this is
Yeah,
going to
I mean,
happen
I
now.
will say
There's
that
no
I do really like Brad Dourif. So, like, and
as
it's
the voice actor, yeah,
yeah, the
yeah,
voice actor obviously in Lord of the Rings and stuff as well, and Deadwood. I think he's a great actor. So, like, when I first heard him in Chucky, I was like, I can get on board because I like his voice, but it's just by the end you're just exhausted and you just want it to stop.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not great.
Right, should we talk about one last crap film before we talk about anything
Sure.
else that's good? Because Alice, Sweet Alice. Now, I've seen some reviews and stuff online. It's generally positive what people say, and I literally do not understand why. There are elements in this that I think work really, really well, but I have to immediately jump to the dumbest fucking twist of all time. It makes, again, like I've said this a few times, it makes no sense that who it turns out to be the killer, and it was infuriating. There's a lot, again, like we say about Chucky, there's just a lot of infuriating points in this. And also, the more time I sat with it, the more I realized that the fucking everybody in the film is just gaslighting Alice the whole time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? This is not something I really considered before, but all they're doing is just gaslighting Alice the whole time, and they're just making her out to be the bad guy, I guess. Um, but no, I don't know. I really didn't get a lot. I think there's elements in this that kind of work, but I think for the most part, it just just doesn't work that well. Um,
I think
the reveal of the killer's really fucking stupid as well.
it's awful, yeah. I mean, I think I actually did enjoy the movie up until the twist. I know what you mean about they are basically just gaslighting her, which is true, but I did quite enjoy the sort of didn't go very deep, but I enjoyed like the parents almost like inability to believe it was their daughter, and then
Mm.
um occasionally our mother start to feel like she's coming around a little bit. So I enjoyed the bit where like we didn't know if it was Alice. I think it was never going to be Alice, but um yeah, the twist just drops it so much, makes no sense, and it lasts ages. Like
Yeah.
it's at least 20 minutes, 25 minutes that you find out who the killer is, and then more stuff happens, and
Yeah, and
it just continues to get worse from there basically.
the ending is infuriating as well because like the killer kills one more person, and like they pull out this knife out of nowhere and stab him, and then there's lots of other people in the room who just start gasping and screaming, and then just sort of stand there like crying, and it's like, I, okay, why are you not helping this person? You're just going to let this person die, I guess. And then Alice picks up the knife and walks off, and then like you've got all these people crying in the background, and she puts the knife into a bag and looks down the lens. I looks down the camera, and then it ends. And I was like, "What are you? What I don't understand what you're trying to tell me here. Has Alice been bad the whole time, or what?" It's just so confusing. I don't understand why that was in there. I don't
I
understand
think
what the
I feel like
purpose of that is.
I feel like is it suggesting that Alice still kind of has the potential because she's not a great kid. I know that her parents are horrible, basically in the terms of like how they favorite, like the favoritism they give the first daughter, the youngest daughter, and obviously Alice has some issues herself with stuff like that. But I guess are they trying to say that Alice has the potential to be like a
But
murderer? Maybe
I don't understand what the
I don't
purpose of
really
that
know.
is though, because they already no, but they already say that when the psychiatrist talks to the parents, because they're saying that she has to be held there because she's got like issues that need to be sorted out. So you've already been told explicitly, without a doubt, that Alice has issues that need to be sorted out. So why do you need that bit at the end? It's all just a bit jumbled for me. Like the more I sat with it, the more I didn't like it, because for sure there are bits that do work up until the twist. And when I was watching it, I was enjoying it, but then after the twist, I was just a little bit like,
I think
I
the
it.
twist does completely deflate it. Like it's probably the worst one out of all the films that we watched for this. I think leading up to that point, Alice Sweet Alice isn't the worst film we've seen from this.
No, no.
Definitely not. I think it's got some really interesting parts to it, but I just think the twist completely deflates it, and it's a shame because if they kept consistency, they may not have made the best movie ever, but they would have made an okay movie.
Was there any other films that you watched that you thought were worth mentioning at all?
Yes and no. I mean, I think this appeared on maybe a couple of lists, but there was Brian De Palma's Dress to Kill. Um, Now, I was a bit unsure if this was to be considered a slasher, but it's not. It's not a slasher. There is slashing. That's how I would describe it. There is some slashing. Basically, it's De Palma's ode to Psycho. Um, it's very Hitchcockian sort of thriller more so than a slasher. And I feel like obviously all slashers do take from basically that shower scene in Psycho because they learn how to make like a lethal stabbing cheaply, basically, and with craft as well. But yeah, this is his ode to Psycho, and it has moments that are genuinely impeccable, but it's just there's just so many issues with it that make it incredibly dated. Um, the best scene in the entire film is when a housewife, she's in the museum, and she's kind of been debating whether or not to uh, basically have sex with someone else because she's a bit unhappy in her marriage, and she sits next to this guy who is a good-looking chap, I guess. He's very 80s, but but yeah. And then what happens is this like this flirtation sequence between the two of them where they walk around the museum, but it's all done in silence, and it's amazing. But the biggest issue with the film is that it tries to use transgender as a mental illness. Basically, that's what it feels like, and that's incredibly dated and just incredibly wrong. So that's why the film isn't great now. And there's actually a really great article about it that someone did for the Guardian, which I read afterwards, which makes a really good point. But no, I don't think it's very useful for this discussion because, like I said, it's not a slasher, but there is slashing, and I understand the confusion. But no, it's more of a psycho thriller, I think.
Yeah, well, I might have to give that a check out at some point. But well, that's it for the slashing films we've done. So, what do you reckon was your favorite and your least favorite from the new ones to us? Obviously, Halloween will probably be up there, but of the new films to us, what do you think was your favorite and least favorite?
It was a lot of least favorites. No, I think actually, I'm not sure. It's a good question. I'd say Deep Red is my favorite,
Yeah,
but
mine too.
part of me wants to say My Bloody Valentine as well because I just loved it so much. But no, I think Deep Red definitely is the better one. I think in terms of worst, I think Prom Night, Chucky, and Friday the 13th are all there, and like I didn't like any of them, to be honest.
I totally agree. I'd put Alice Sweet Alice down there as well. I didn't like it at all. But for me, by far, my least favorite was Friday the 13th. I was expecting a lot more.
Yeah.
Um, and it was just, it might not be technically the worst film, but it was definitely my least favorite. All right, so we're going to wrap up with our usual this or that. I'm going to start, I'm going to go with a theme of death for my three, considering we've been talking about slashes. Which death would you rather have to go through? Hans Gruber in Die Hard or Howard Payne in Speed?
um, I think yeah, Howard Payne. I think.
Yeah.
I just think that sounds more like instantaneous. I don't like the idea of falling from a building and then being like just start like rethinking my entire life just before I die. I'd rather it kind of just happen. So yeah, that one for me.
That's fair. It is more dramatic though, just falling backwards. And also you are, you know, this evil bad guy, The guy in Speed is not that evil really, is he? He's a bit fucking weird.
Do I have to be evil then?
Well, I'm saying, yeah, I suppose I didn't specify you had to be that character, but
I mean, I am evil, so that's fine.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right.
What's your first one for me?
Um, I really, honestly, I struggle with this more than talking for an hour about movies. First one for me is Mel Gibson Mad Max or Tom Hardy Mad Max.
Tom Hardy, any day. Sorry, I don't like Mel Gibson at all. I don't
Oh,
like him at
okay,
all.
fair enough. That wasn't as
I
hard as I
think
thought it'd be.
no, it really is. I think in Mad Max, I think he's fine. Well, the first one, he's passable. I think he's really good in Road Warrior. But I prefer the character of the Tom Hardy character anyway, because I like this idea of this guy who doesn't talk that much, who's kind of just there to beat ass. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
He talks a lot. He talks a lot in Mel Gibson talks a lot in all three of the Mad Maxes he's in.
yeah. Very
Um,
true. Very true.
yeah, sorry, that was really easy for me. I really don't like Mel Gibson. So.
That's all right.
So, which saw trap would you rather be in? The razor box or the bear head trap? Do you know which one I mean by the
No,
razor
what's the
box?
razor box?
It's the one where they have to, the key is in these two boxes, and you have to put your hands in. But as you put your hands in, the flaps reveal that they have razors, and as you pull back down, it will cut your wrists.
And then what's the second option?
The bear trap on your head.
See, that one doesn't sound fun. I
I don't
think
think either of them do.
I don't know. I guess the first one, because it's not on your head. I don't really remember. I'm really struggling to like visualize both of them, but I feel like if it's hands and I suppose it's wrists as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that one, I feel like this is the reason why I chose these two is because they're not really traps you can escape from.
Oh,
Like they were
brilliant.
just in the film, both of them don't escape from it.
Okay, I guess the first one. I don't really know. Neither sound pleasant, but I guess the first
No.
one.
Yeah. Fair.
God, you really got the theme of death today, haven't you? Jesus Christ. Mine are so wholesome as well. My next one for you is Indiana Jones or Han Solo.
Oh, that's a hard one. I think probably Indy.
Oh, really?
I like, yeah, I think so. I just talking about the wholesome. I like how wholesome Indy is.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, there's not a bad bone in his body. He's just some cool looking architect, not architect. Cool looking, what are they called?
Archaeologist?
Archaeologist. That's what. He's just
he's an architect.
He's an architect. Yeah, he just really, really likes old things. No, I think he's just a cool old, or not cool old, but he's a cool archaeologist who just goes on these wicked adventures. I think Han Solo is really cool as well, but I don't know. There's just something about Indy that always jumped out. I think probably it's down to the fact that Indy's is more like attainable.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's something you can actually see someone doing.
Yeah.
But Star Wars is not exactly a realistic documentary or anything.
Well, I don't know about that.
It does say that it is in a galaxy a long time ago.
Could be real somewhere in the world. In the world? In the galaxy. In the universe.
Okay, so the last one for you. Would you rather be trampled by wildebeest like Mufasa or hit by a knife while jumping through a magical portal like Dobby?
Jesus Christ. I think the portal one, like Dobby.
Yeah.
I just think trampled by wildebeest sounds so brutal.
It does, doesn't it?
And like, I think I know a knife would hurt, but at least I'd get to go through a cool portal.
Yeah, and then you're in Daniel Radcliffe's arms as he cries.
That's true. I think I'd rather be in Emma Watson's arms, but
you jump through the portal and Harry comes over. You're like, no, Hermione.
Well, I'm really glad that I've been able to tell you how I want to die 3 times now. Right, my last one again, even more wholesome than the last one, is Mickey Mouse or Bugs Bunny.
I think I'd probably say Bugs Bunny. Mickey Mouse is more important, but I grew up with Bugs Bunny more than I did Mickey Mouse. I watched more stuff with Bugs Bunny in. So
I heard that as though like, oh, I grew up with Bugs Bunny, like you were in the same house together.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is based on me and Bugs Bunny. Yeah. Anyway, that was a fucking diabolical end.
Yeah, it's like the Frozen conversation all over again. Jesus.
Let's not get back into that because
we'll be here forever.
Anna is better than Elsa. Like,
I'm not gonna comment.
Well, thanks very much for listening to this Real Film podcast. Hope you enjoyed. You can find us on almost all of your podcast platforms, but if you head to anchor.fm/real reviewing, you can find your place there. You can also find us at realreviewing.com is the website to read all our reviews and lists and articles. We're Real Reviewing on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Philson Wilson.
And you can find me at Cosp Jord.
And I hope you enjoyed listening. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye now.
Goodbye.
Bye. Should we do that Barbie thing there? Bye now. Bye bye at the end of Toy Story. Bye now.
Bye now.
Bye now. Bye bye.